everybody. Welcome to another virtual version of Couch Chats. So, with us tonight, we have a few staffers that haven't really been on Couch Chats before. We have from Pennsylvania, the man, the myth, the legend, Anthony Sadari. He is actually our Northeast regional coordinator as well. We have field staffer, the Indiana man, Kess Fisher. And we have from New York, Ryan Redding. What's up, fellas?
What's going on?
Up, guys?
So about a month ago, actually it was more than a month ago, a few months ago, Ryan sent out an open invitation to fall obsession staffers to have us join him in Western New York on a deer hunt. And the four of us took him up on that. So about a month ago, we met up with Ryan and we met in Western New York. I don't remember the town exactly, just because I'm not familiar with Western New York. But Ryan said, "Here, go here," so that's where we went. But anyway, um, so we met up in Western New York on an archery deer hunt, and Ryan hosted us for a weekend. So Ryan's going to kick us off by just kind of give us a layout of his property, a layout of his land, and we'll just kind of go from there. So Ryan, talk about your leases, talk about your properties.
Sure, man. It was a good time having you guys up here, by the way. Um, the property that you guys came to, it's about 140 acres total. The majority of it is ag, roughly, 50 acres, close to 50 acres of corn, 40 to 50. And then you've got some outlying timber, and it kind of sits between the thruway, which is our I-90, and then Route 5, which runs along Lake Erie. There's a lot of good deer that come through there. It just depends on the time of year. As you guys seen, we were able to see a lot of doe during that time, and you potentially could have had a shooter. We did see, one big one on camera that early morning. And I have another property which is about another 140, 150 acres. And that is in Region 9K. I really didn't want to give out the towns, but that's Region 9K in New York. Um, the other one is 9J. So this other property has some food plots that I've done. It's got a pond.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't really get any big bucks that kind of come through there until the actual rut, quote unquote, period. Other than that, it's kind of like a dough factory. But um, yeah, it was good that you guys came out. It's something I'd like to do kind of more often, but maybe during better times of the season so somebody could actually
Yeah,
really put a good one down.
yeah. We came kind of early, and it just kind of worked out for our schedule at that time. So I mean, that's kind of why we ended up there at that time. But he says, a few good deer. I mean, there are a lot of really good deer. So what are our impressions? So Anthony, tell us.
it's probably one of the best lands that I've seen that I've hunted on, honestly. Between the acreage of corn, the CRP, you know, the woods and everything. I mean, it's everything that you could ask for in a hunting area.
Hmm.
Uh, what I liked about it was the way that Ryan had it set up. I
Yeah,
mean, he knew, you know, everything about these deer, which way they were going, just how he had it all laid out, all mapped out, his stand location, camera locations. I mean, he really put us in a lot of good areas.
yeah. Yeah, I would totally agree with you. And it was nice. We learned so much from this. We learned so much from Ryan in general. And on my, what was that? 2 weeks ago, I did a podcast with Sam, and I mentioned some of the things that I learned from Ryan in Tacticam in general. It changed my whole hunting season back here in Michigan when I got back, just by doing some analytics stuff. I coached a variety of sports: baseball, football, basketball. I did it for about 30 years, and that's a big part of what you do as a coach. You look at analytics. It's part of what we do as a company. You look at analytics, what's working, what's not working. And when Ryan pulled up analytics from Tacticam, it was like, oh, that makes so much sense. And I started following what Ryan showed us, and man, it changed my whole hunting season like never before. So anyway, yeah, we learned so much from you, Ryan. And so you know my impression of it was, I Same as you, Anthony. It's one of the best properties I've ever hunted. You can see there's deer everywhere. We saw deer. We saw the pictures that Ryan was sending us, and just to get to meet you guys in person again. Obviously, I've hung out with Kess before, but I haven't met Anthony. I haven't met Ryan, and it was just so much fun hanging out with you guys and getting to know you. And again, it's that brotherhood of
Yeah, for
fall
sure.
obsession again, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do it again. There is some high quality deer there. You know, it's a lot of corn, and you never know where they're going to be or where they're going to show up. But um, it's not too bad for a 150-acre parcel. I mean, the ag obviously holds a lot of deer, but
Yeah.
there's some high quality deer for sure. I was able to take mine, as you can see, my number one hit lister. I got lucky with this year on Halloween.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, for sure, for sure. So how did your hunt season go, Anthony? I'd ask Cass.
Uh, it was wasn't good. Probably one of my worst so far.
You're still in season, right?
Yeah, tomorrow's our last day for archery.
Okay,
Then Saturday starts, I think, 4 days, 5 days of bear rifle. And then we go into Thanksgiving, and then next Saturday starts our rifle.
okay, okay. So
Yeah,
we're
archery
coming up
didn't
to
go too well
Thanksgiving,
this
and
year.
we're gonna knock down a bear.
for
We're
sure.
going to try. Definitely going to try. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, archery didn't. I tried a new spot. Um, it had potential, and I did see some smaller buck
Uh-huh.
passing through there. Just nothing worth shooting.
Okay.
Probably a couple hundred yards from where I was at, we ended up seeing or my buddy shot a nice 11 point.
Okay.
Um, so there's still a bunch out there. We have probably 9 shooters in the area.
Uh-huh.
So hopefully here in rifle, I'll be able to connect.
So I had a pretty good season, and it's still going. And here in Michigan, as a private landowner, I can shoot 2 bucks or 10 does and 10 does. Sorry, so I can get 12 deer, or I can use my 2 buck tags on does, so I could shoot 12 does if I wanted to. So I shot a nice little 8 point. Not I shouldn't say little. I shot an 8 point. I don't remember. End of October, and it was one of those. He came out, gave me a really good shot. I looked at him, said, "Hey, he's got a decent rack, good body." Shot him. I didn't think I put a good shot on him, especially once I got down and started trying to trail him. We couldn't find any blood. I had Heather out there; she was helping me trying to trail the thing, and we couldn't find any blood. So I did the whole. Well, I think he went over here, so I went over a brush pile, went to the edge of a ravine, and I heard like scattering of leaves, not like busting out. So typically when you blow a deer out of its bed, you hear it just, everything's just blowing out. This was just like a swooshing of leaves. And then I heard a couple steps. So I shut my flashlight off. I backed out, went in, and suddenly got sick. So I had to call in sick for work the next day. I had a cough come up, and I didn't want to share that with other people. So my bosses don't. I don't know if my bosses some
Buck
listen.
fever's real.
What's that?
Buck fever's real.
Yeah, it is. It was about 105-degree fever or something. So anyway,
Uh,
I went back in the morning, back to the exact same spot, and above this ravine, looked to the right, nothing. Looked to the left, yeah, there he is, right down there. So sure enough, he was laying down there. So I had to haul him up out of this ravine by myself. Well, once I got him on a scale, he field dressed at 100, like 175 pounds field dressed. Like, oh shoot, this dude was like over 200 pounds live weight, and I was just pulling him up out of the gully. Well, what I found out too was as I was pulling him up and having my heart attack, like I was telling you guys, you want to see a 50-year-old have a heart attack? Give me a second, I'll record it for you. But anyway, I was sitting on a log, and happened to look over. And I'm like, look at all that blood. There was blood everywhere on the ground. So we were just, it was one of those where, you're trying to find it so hard that things speed up and you overlook it. And for those of you out there, I mean, it really happens. The big thing that, and I've known this, it was a rookie mistake. that you want to take your time. You want to do things right. You want to make sure that you get on that blood trail because you don't know what's going to happen to the animal, once you get there. And we were out there and we were trying to do it quickly because it was later at night. We wanted to hurry up and get the deer taken care of because we had to work in the morning and so on and so forth. And so anyway, so I found that one and ended up actually it put a good shot on him. And then I went out the first really cold morning and ended up shooting a doe and a turkey. And then had a 9 point that I passed up only because I had seen a really nice buck the night before at one of my other stands. So I was waiting to get on him. And as I was telling these guys that night when we were celebrating, because I've never shot a turkey and a deer in the same day. I've never done that. In fact, the last couple turkeys I've shot, they've ran off with my arrows. So suckers are tough. Oh my gosh, they are tough.
There's
And
not a lot of people that can say they shot a turkey with a bow to begin with. So
yeah, so I've shot most of my turkeys I've shot were with bow. And so
really,
Kess is here, by the way. His audio is full.
yeah, I had to leave and come right back. Howdy, guys. Sorry about that.
He
That
finally
works.
showed up. So anyway, so I did shoot. I shot the turkey, and last year, oh my gosh, I had a nice time. So going back, telling you a little history. Last year, I had a Tom come in, center punch that sucker. Oh my gosh, I drilled him, and he walked off and had my arrow sticking out of him. And I'm like, what? So I'm seeing him go through the brush. I see my arrow going through the brush. Well, it started raining. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get down and try to trail him. Well, I couldn't find him, never found him. And so fast forwarding to this year, ironically, a couple weeks ago, I have a buddy at work is big into hunting. He was telling me about a turkey that came in. He said he center punched it with a crossbow. And so crossbows, as we know, shoot a lot faster than regular compound bows. They have a lot more power. He said he
Yep.
center punched it and the arrow stuck. He went down, tried to track it.
Wow.
The thing ran off with his arrow with the boat. And so I'm like, yeah, I know the feeling. So then this one, and I remember one thing Kendra told me last year because I was just stewing about this thing, and she's like a turkey guru. Kendra is. She goes, "You ever shoot a turkey with a bow? Aim at its spine because you spine it, you'll kill it. Instantly, and it won't go anywhere."
Right.
This turkey was walking away, so I aimed at the base of its neck and shot, and I happened to go right through the wing, right through its neck, right through the front. And so, yeah, I did exactly what Kendra. So a lot of what hunting is, and I'm sure a lot of people out there know this, it's a lot about learning, being students of the game. And the one thing the big thing I took out of our New York hunt is you got to choose the right stand because I won't hear the end of this one.
Oh, never.
Never.
And
Yeah, let's
secondly,
talk about that, Todd. What were you supposed to do that morning?
I only told him go over to that stand and sit there because I knew them bucks used to come out there. And he said, yeah, 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 I'll go. And then he stopped short and went to the closer one. And sure enough, daylight rolls around and there's a big old 8 right there. I mean, he's 20-inch spread probably.
yeah, and to my
And I'll
point,
tell you that was the deer that was like the ultimate decision for me, Ryan, when you were showing some of your trail cam photos over the summer. Because like I've seen a lot about New York, but I've got some friends out there that hunt and stuff, and you see some mediocre deer for what we would consider in the Midwest, but being Northeast like that, it's a lot different.
Yeah.
And, but when you posted that picture, I was like, that deer for New York is something special. And then I was like, yeah, I'm sold. I'm going. I'd love to see these guys for one, but for two, that's a New York whitetail right there.
Yeah,
That's
right.
something I'm proud of. And then we get there, and Ryan starts showing us photos of all the deer he's got. And I was like, okay, so maybe the one I was here for is not the one that we're all here for. But good
Yeah.
Lord, I tell you, New York's hosting some serious whitetail that not too many people know about. I think the other day, what was you referred to New York as? The next Kansas?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, with the deer that he's been showing that they've been killing up there, and I hope that this don't get a lot of views for this reason because I want to keep it a honey hole. But I mean, New York's got some serious game going on right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
what's
maybe
the reason
some of
for
the
that, Ryan? What do you think? Why is it all of a sudden they're pulling out all these bucks, these big bucks?
It's got to
so
be the
New York
vineyards they
done.
love.
so there's a couple reasons. Like it's unfortunate, but the hunting the number of hunters has gone down.
Same
So
here.
when I was younger, the roads on state land used to be, tattered with cars. You did 60 in a row, So now it's like, wait a minute, this is hunting season. If, you drive through state land and there's maybe 5 or 6 trucks, 8 trucks, and besides Thanksgiving and opening day or whatever. So obviously, these big bucks are getting smarter. They have more area to roam. There's not enough guys, but I think on private land now too, like we have or leases, people are getting smart to the game. Keeping the does and bucks kind of in ratio, trying to do certain things. They're managing things properly and
Mhm.
things are going to work out. And then little by little, these guys are just pulling giants. Like, some of them that you do see from Kansas and Iowa and 180-inch deer and, things like that. Old deer, like my deer didn't score much. He's probably a 130, but he was old because he was going downhill, but he was my
Yeah.
number one buck. So I'm still waiting to get his age back, actually. I sent his jaw away because I wanted to get the proper age on him just to see what he was.
Sure.
Um, but yeah,
And
I
you
think,
tell that story, right? You tell that story in your podcast. It's a really cool story about that buck, right?
yeah, I told some of it in the podcast with
Yeah.
Sam.
Yep. So
Um,
stay tuned for the podcast coming up this Monday, I think, actually.
for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bucks there. I actually just got an alert right now. They're chasing on one of my cameras right now. I don't know if you can see that buck. Can you see
Oh yeah.
him?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he just got fired up again. He's a nice 8 point. But next year he'll even be bigger, So I hope him and a couple other ones still survive the game, because they're just going to get bigger and bigger. And I'm very selective, I used to shoot a lot of deer. I took out my does, and now I just take my 2 doe. If I can get 2 bucks, because we can only get one with archery in New York and one with gun.
Hmm.
So if you can get two, you're lucky. But a lot of guys, it's the motto up here is, man, is it's brown, it's down, especially during gun season. Not so much during archery, but during gun. So,
So,
it I guess it all depends on your area because or how it's managed. Like
mhm.
because I could have, good bucks in one area and then my buddy 10 minutes down the road or 20 minutes down the road is like, I'm not seeing a thing. So I think it's all about really about micromanaging. Like if you can I think the biggest thing is intrusion.
Mhm.
If you can access a property properly and because let's just say 5 years ago or 7 years ago when I started hunting one of those leases, there were four of us and we were always hunting and we
Yeah.
weren't seeing that caliber of deer.
Right. Right. Right.
Well, times have changed and now like the last 2.5 years, it's just kind of been me there.
Mhm.
And now they're starting to come back and like take their positions and pass through a lot more, and it's just I think intrusion is like one of the biggest things people don't even understand.
Gotcha. And so I shouldn't say I've always, I mean, I went through a phase a long time ago where it's brown, it's down, and I have so many 4 points mounted on my wall and just little scrub bucks and that sort of thing. But then it got to a point where you start realizing that you can actually manage the herd here, but the thing that I realized too was that you really have to develop a game plan with not only yourself but try to get others on your team, right? Your neighbors and people who are hunting in the adjacent properties and that sort of thing. And years ago we actually had that. We had like a kind of like a block meeting because it's not really a town. We live in the country here, so we got a bunch of people together and came up with a plan to shoot nothing less than an 8 point and or nothing less than a 3-year-old. And so that's kind of what we've been doing. And man, I tell you what, we this year in particular, we have, because after that we had EHD roll through and we are starting to see good bucks come through. But when EHD rolled through, I was seeing about 50 deer every sit before EHD. When EHD rolled through, I remember that particular year after it rolled through, I saw 5 deer on opening day of archery, which is October 1st. I didn't see another deer until like the second week in December, and I'm like it. And yeah, I went 2 full months without even seeing deer. And then I happened to have a doe, and I used to come out right at last light. I'm like, I better shoot her because I won't get any meat. And so that was the only deer I shot that year. And because of EHD. And this year, again, it's rolling through the area again this year. And so I'm afraid what's going to happen next year. But this year, more so than any other year, because of the fact that we came up with a game plan and we worked together as neighbors. And secondly, really, like you said, our numbers have declined here in Michigan. They talked about there's a decline of 200,000 to 300,000 less hunters this year. That's an incredible number. And
Sure.
not only that, but our winters we haven't had a winter in a long time. Our winters lately have been, we get a week of snow and that's it. And so we don't, back in the day when I was growing up, we would lose so many deer during the winter because our winters are so hard. It doesn't happen anymore. And that's why EHD is coming back into it, because our winters aren't even cold enough to kill off the larvae that cause EHD, the midgets, I think they're called.
Right.
Uh, so we're starting to experience some of that. And so it's cool to be, so going back to my point, becoming a student of the game. And I've always believed this as a coach, as an athlete, as a hunter, you got to educate yourself, and it's constant learning. Life is all about learning, you know what I mean? And so
Right.
that's how you better yourself as a hunter, as as a teacher in my case, as a coach when I coach, as an official, whatever you do, that's how you better yourself. That's just kind of my whole thing, and kind of went on a soapbox, but so Anthony looks like
So
he's ready to. Anthony looks like he's fired up. He's ready to roll.
Oh yeah, I'm always ready to roll.
So talk about your hunting season, Anthony.
Well, uneventful. Um, really, I tried out a new spot like we said earlier, and seen a couple small young bucks. Messed with them a little bit, grunting, watching them stomp around, chasing doe around. Um, it's kind of fun to see and watch. But yeah, as of right now, I mean, tomorrow's our last day, and it's not looking good for the home team.
So something that you mentioned while we were in, and I wasn't aware of this, and I don't know if Kess and Ryan, if you were aware of this, but in Pennsylvania, you can't hunt on Sundays. That
You
just blew
can,
my mind. Like my daughter would say,
you can now. There's certain Sundays they're allowing now to hunt, right, Anthony?
Yeah. So last Sunday we were allowed to hunt.
okay,
really,
Yeah, this Sunday coming, I think we're allowed to hunt for bear rifle.
okay,
And then the Sunday in between our 2 weeks of rifle, we're allowed to hunt.
do you
Yeah,
have
normally you
bears out
can't.
there?
I did see that, but then I seen the law passed that they were allowing certain Sundays, which is weird.
They're trying to make all Sundays. The problem is you still got a lot of hunters that like the old ways, and they don't. Um, Pennsylvania is lacking in a lot of laws compared to other states.
Okay,
Um, as far as the seasons, uh, bag limits, which is a good thing for us. With what with a resident license, we can get $1, and then we buy doe tags after that. We can get up, I think, to 6 doe tags a
okay,
person.
oh,
They just recently
yeah.
made it so you can buy doe tags over the counter.
okay.
So
So you guys can get seven deer total if you 6 doe tags and $1, right? I'm not a math teacher, but
yeah,
I think I
yeah.
know. Yeah, okay. So that's pretty impressive. So, Cass, you were saying something. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, I said that's more than what we get in Indiana. Depending on the county. I mean, so in Indiana, the way they rate everything, you get $1 in the state of Indiana, and that goes across all seasons, whether that be archery, firearms, muzzleloader, or late archery.
Uh-huh.
But the doe quota they run per county. So,
And that's the way it is here in PA.
right. But in specifically Franklin County, where I'm at, I'm about 10 minutes south of the lake, and They've lowered the doe quota down to 2 this year, I believe, which is understandable considering like what Todd was talking about with the EHD. A lot of times you see what's going on with the EHD is completely surrounded by water in those areas. And we've had an astronomical amount of dead deer that have been found around the lake, specifically in the Metamora area. But unfortunately, because we're within that county and they've lowered that quota, it doesn't necessarily affect where I'm at, being 10 minutes south of the lake. We don't have too many water sources around us. It's like my properties, and particularly that I hunt, are completely consumed with does. Kind of very similar to what Ryan was talking about earlier with one of his leases. It is so difficult to find buck movement, especially in the early season until the rut comes around, because we have so many does in the area. They're not going to show face until the rut comes and those does start coming into heat. But I can't personally manage that property the way I need to eliminate some of those does and, bring down my ratio to a 2-1, 1-to-1 ratio, because the state doesn't allow for that. The county doesn't allow for that. So I'm stuck having, a 20-to-1 ratio instead of the 2-to-1 or 1-to-1 that I want. And unfortunately, being governed on the county level, even though I'm not in the area that was affected directly by EHD, it really does affect me hard trying to manage my property. So there's a lot of logistical items that play a part in trying to manage your properties that a lot of people don't take into account.
For sure.
Gotcha. So, I don't remember if we were recording at that time that I was talking to you guys, but here in Michigan, and the DNR a couple years ago, we had a can you guys see me still?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Because I have a screen here. It said our call is going to end in 10 minutes, so I clicked on something and I'm all over the place here. But anyway, as long as you can see me, so we're good. So anyway, it here in Michigan, a few years ago, like Anthony said, we used to have to apply for a doe tag, but then a few years ago, we were able to buy as a private landowner. We can go to any store and just go and buy a tag as we please. And so now we are allowed as a private landowner, we're allowed to shoot or get 10 doe tags and 2 buck tags. Our buck tags are a regular buck tag, which you can shoot any buck that you want. It could be a a year-old button buck, or a year-old with maybe 2-inch spikes on one on each side, and or whatever. And then the second tag is a restricted one where they have to have 4 on one side, and so that's the requirement for that. But within the last year or two, it's called a combo tag. They made that combo tag also doe tags. So now you can get, as a private landowner, you can get 10 doe tags, plus you can use your buck tags now to shoot does. So technically I could shoot 12 does. My wife could shoot 12 does. My oldest daughter could shoot 12 does. We could shoot a lot of deer. And the rationale behind it when they rolled it out was the fact that CWD and EHD were really having an impact on the herd. So, and I'm sure there was more to it, and the DNR does a good job. And obviously they're the ones that make the rules, and we have to follow them. But the impression I got was they wanted us to do what we could to try to eradicate as much of the herd as we possibly can by allowing this much. You know what I mean? And so what you're getting are these hunters that go out and just, it's brown as down. And so that's why I was happy that in our area, we were able to come together as a group and come up with a decision and create a game plan to allow bucks to grow. So.
Yeah, you said about CWD, the area that I hunt, we're CWD area.
Okay.
And I have not seen a sign of CWD, so I don't know where they're getting these statistics from.
Yeah.
But, it's almost like they want the deer taken. They want to wipe them out.
Yeah.
And you all know that if you can get down a rabbit hole, what's the reasoning behind that is. So
I was talking with a guy the other day, more along the lines of like conspiracy theorist when it comes to all this stuff, but talking about the involvement of insurance companies and impacting the overall licensure behind hunters and the authority that they have over bag limits and stuff like that. And some of the things that they brought to my attention was absolutely astounding to see. They don't want
Yep.
to pay out on somebody wrecking their vehicle 100% through, so they're going to up the bag limit by 2 + 3 does, whatever, per county in the state. Next thing you know, you've got 100,000 extra deer being taken the next year, and insurance companies make out with their money because they don't got to pay out anymore. I don't. It a rabbit hole you could jump down, and
Oh, it's
it
a
goes
big
right
rabbit hole.
what you were saying. But that's the world we live in. So
Yeah, exactly.
That's a fact. Hey, I was going to touch on too. You were talking about the Tacticams earlier, um, and not a lot of people kind of do what I was doing, and I kind of showed you roughly, really quick, where um, I don't know if you guys all implemented it, but so as your photos come in, kind of what I started doing is you label them all. Like if you've got
Mhm.
shooter bucks or whatever, this bear or whatever your situation is, you kind of label them. So there's a little golf tee icon on your screen for the Tacticam, and you click that. Uh, and then that kind of opens up like weather, moon phase, a bunch of different things that you can change and finagle around.
Yeah,
And
for
then
sure.
what that does is based on what you've what criteria you have for your bucks, if you're, 10 shooter bucks, let's say, and then, you can go in and say, hey, so I'm going to hunt an afternoon, so I'll put these times in, and I'm going to put, whatever the moon phase is, if you want to get really technical, or the wind or whatever it is. It gives you a bunch of different options. So you could punch those in and it shows you all the pictures that were saved that you labeled. And it might show, hey, this buck is coming through on a southwest wind with a full moon, this trail, this time, this whatever it is, and it kind of breaks it down, like you said, statistics, which is really cool. But a lot of people aren't using their game cameras as that. They're just
Right.
looking at it as like, oh, it's photos, it's photos, it's photos. And I'm like, there's got to
Mhm.
be a better way. You got to narrow this stuff down instead of, writing it down on a piece of paper. So using those statistics, because a lot of people, I just wanted to put that out there because a lot of people don't know how to do that.
Exactly. Like I
You
said,
know,
it changed my whole hunting season just by, I would look at the forecast. It's northwest wind, so I go on my Tacticam and look at northwest wind. Where am I getting the majority of my pictures? And that's where I would sit that night. And sure enough, I would get, like I said, I would get quality bucks every night that I would sit. So I mentioned that to Sam, and Sam pulled it up right away. He's like, "Oh, I didn't even realize that either." So
Yeah, it
that
was definitely a
you a
big
little bit of
tool, Ryan. That was definitely it was cool that you showed us that because I knew nothing about it either.
yeah,
yeah, for sure. I mean, like you can do everything from moon phase to because it gives you, different phases of the moon and all kinds of stuff. And then when you start putting it in, but the thing is, you really kind of it'll show you all the deer, but whenever I get a big buck on camera or a good buck or a potential, I label it right away. So down on the bottom of your photo, it says add tag. You hit that and you add your
Right.
tag, whatever it
yep,
is. So then it kind of later on, when you can go through your breakdown there, it'll ask you, it'll say tag or whatever it is. You can click and it'll open up and say whatever you want to search for. You put
sure.
bucks, and that way it's just strictly pulling bucks up on that wind, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I just wanted to bring that up because not a lot of people know how to even use that.
Yeah, and that's what I've done, started doing too. I started tagging everything that comes through, and at the end of the season, I'll go through and delete a lot of the stuff, because a lot of it's does, a lot of it's a cat, or whatever, and so, but anyway, it says we got a minute and a half left, so we're starting to get down to the end here. So any final thoughts on anything, fellas?
outside of New York being a great trip.
Yeah,
Well,
that was awesome. Like I
we
said,
kept that well. I think all of us kind of came to the consensus that we would love to get back out there again, whether that be later this season or making it an annual thing to get out there and get together with the guys, have a good time, and maybe one of us, if Todd decides to actually sit in the correct stand to harvest a mature whitetail.
I got it figured out now.
Or maybe a better time of the year because you guys were here earlier, so after maybe like the 25th or something where they're really starting to move, we'd have
Right.
put something
Yeah.
down on the ground for you guys.
Yep.
Yeah, we may have to come out there and pick the corn ourselves too, and just see what happens, or maybe just a couple rows anyway.
Yeah.
Perfect. So annual thing, or we'll
Yeah.
get it and we'll start sitting in the right stand. So, all right, y'all. So, hey, it was great seeing you guys. Couch Chats, check us out. It's one of our premier programs here at Fall Obsession. Check us out on Carbon TV. Thanks for joining us. Stay obsessed.
Stay obsessed, y'all.